I'm just kind of keeping promises to everyone else. I have to put mine on the back burner. That's not true. You can still do it. You can still write that book. You can still become the workout person if you want. You can still get spiritually closer to God, that sort of thing.
How do you build a network, run a profitable business, and make an impact? Oh, and have a personal life at the same time? That's the question, and this podcast is the answer. I'm your host, Chaz Wilson, husband, father of 5, author of the book 5+1, president and co-founder of Master Networks Inc., a national networking organization. Look, each week I bring you successful entrepreneurs who will share success strategies of how to effectively build a network, add valuable wisdom to your journey, and help you succeed. Welcome to Connect, Share, and Prosper.
Hey everybody, welcome to, I think this is episode 86 of Connect, Share, Prosper. I mean, I can't believe we're that far along in Connect, Share, Prosper. I'm excited today. Thanks for joining us with our special guest, Jason Hewlett. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and you guys are going to absolutely love our episode today as we're going to dive into some really important things, especially as we get into the new year upcoming and to, making commitments into our business. But let me tell you about Jason. He lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. He's married, father of 4. He loves hiking and writing music, playing with his kids, and serving in his community with his family. He's one of the youngest inductees into the Speaker Hall of Fame, and I think that's just amazing because I know how much work that takes to get on stages and to speak. In fact, he's given over 2,000 presentations for Fortune 500 companies. Guys, get this, like American Express, Delta Airlines, the Salt Lake Olympics, and many more. Complete legit speaker here, and we're going to dive into that. Award-winning author of Signature Moves, How to Stand Out in a Sit-Down World, which I love, and known for his Facebook titled, I Saw My Wife at Target Today. Jason, welcome to Connect, Share, Prosper.
Thanks for having me, Chad. This is cool. I have a lot of my friends that have been on with you, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. So I've got to start with the I Saw My Wife at Target Today. Tell me what that's about.
So I'm running through Target a few years ago on my way to an event, and I'm just grabbing some manly things, sardines, beef jerky, toenail clippers, beard wax, that kind of stuff. And I'm racing through the store, find the quickest line, only 2 people in it. I pull up, I look up, there's a brunette and a blonde. And I went, whoa, I saw this blonde just knocked me out. I thought, that is one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen. And then I realized it was my wife. Yes. Now, I didn't know she was at the store. I was racing on my way to my place. She was living her life. And so I just stood there, a person in between us, and I just watched her as she was, buying her groceries and her things. And I tried to text her and say, hey, sexy, I'm in the line, I want to say hi. She didn't even look up. She's so busy with her coupons. And I thought, I just sort of stood there and watched her. And I thought, I'm so lucky that I got this girl to even look at me in the first place. We've been married about 15 years at the time. We're now in almost 19 years, but
Congrats.
it was kind of one of those moments, where you aren't expecting to see somebody, but it really helped me reflect on the fact that we need to see each other with fresh eyes to realize the light they are in our lives. And I started sharing this message on what is our promise to our spouse, to our, to ourselves. And when I wrote this post, man, I just kind of typed it up as I thought it was kind of cutesy. And I did a headline that said, I think I cheated on my wife today with my wife. Let me explain. And it just went crazy viral around the entire world, over 150 million views so far from what we understand. And
I did see that post. Now that you say that,
did you really?
I did see that post. Yeah. I didn't realize that was I didn't realize that was the post you were talking about. That's amazing. What an interesting perspective to take that minute. I think that's the lessons in life often is to stop, to be still for a minute and notice things through, like you said, fresh set of eyes, that sometimes we're in an element or I'm with my wife all the time. I may not see her in the eyes that other people do and interact with her. I was in what you're talking about. My wife was a labor delivery nurse for 15 years. And there was a couple of occasions I got to go up to the hospital and see her interacting before she knew I was there with staff. And it was that set of eyes that I got to see her in an element that other people see her in, and my respect and love for her grew in that moment. So I think it's a great story. But you talked just a second here, and I don't want to go past this. You talked about the promises, and I know you're working on a new book, and we'll jump into that and then we'll come back. But tell us about the book and where that came from, and when is that set to be released, et cetera.
Yeah, so this book came, and this whole messaging that I now speak on, the promise, it all came out of this one moment, because then all of a sudden I'm being talked about. I was more viral at that time than Kim Kardashian, who was having a baby. Like, it was crazy, man.
Yeah.
Everyone was talking about it, and I realized that the power of a man writing his thoughts about his wife as a love letter seemed to be something that people were a bit foreign to. And so then this message of promise came about. You see, I've been talking about commitments and goals my entire career, and how we need to set goals and make these commitments. And those are obviously important. But as I started to dig into the research of it and talking more about it, it was like, hey, what's bigger? Can a promise seems to be that word that's so weighty, has such amount of power. Like, you set goals, but you miss them, you just reset them. But if you make a promise, you keep it. If you break it, you've got an issue. And so with this thing between man and husband, or a husband and wife, and loving each other and so forth, and then of course with your family, your children, and then I was like, oh, what about with work? What about my team that I work with? And hey, what about the people I serve? What's my promise to them? And it started to become this thing that it was like, oh, there's all these different aspects of a promise. But what it all comes down to is what I'm writing a book about, which will be released in early 2020. And it's the promise to the one. And the one is yourself. The one is you. So what's your promise you've made to you? And are you keeping those commitments?
And so what's the power in keeping the promise to yourself? Because everything really, typically, most of the time we're taught about is the promises we keep to others. But where's the power? Why the focus on the promise to the one being you?
Yeah, great question. The challenge that, we face the most is that we keep promises to everyone but ourselves. And that's where, if we can't be congruent with that practice to ourselves, then other things slip. And so if I can't make a promise to myself to, do something significant for me, and have that practice of health or self-care, taking care of the things that I really want to do, maybe the project of even writing a book, those types of things will eat at you for your whole life. It's really just, Chaz, I think it's just a feeling of not keeping the promises you made when you were younger, starting your business and your life. And you're just going through life going, I'm just kind of keeping promises to everyone else. I have to put mine on the back burner. That's not true. You can still do it. You can still write that book. You can still become the workout person if you want. You can still get spiritually closer to God, that sort of thing.
So now, don't give too much away of the book, I get, but I want to dig on something you just said, because it makes me think as you bring this topic up, and of course it's not out yet, so I haven't read your book. I'm looking forward to it. You'll have to make sure that we get information on how we can get the book when it comes out. But it makes me think, like, especially maybe at the stage of life I'm in, married, almost 20 years next year, and 5 children. And I look at this and I think, do you think, especially in that stage of life, that people stop making promises to themselves because they've got so many? It's not about keeping a promise to myself. Maybe I just stop even making them because I'm committed to so many other things and so many other people, especially as a husband, a wife, a parent, etc.
Yeah. And, we become afraid of it. We think, well, I'm just going to break it to myself again, so I'm just not going to set any. Or we do what a lot of guys our age do, which is a very sad thing. And statistically, it's crazy. Between the age of, I'm assuming you might be around 40, and then you've got the guys till 55. But that spread of age, they're leaving their families behind, like they're just like, I'm wiping the slate clean. I'm going off on my own. I'm going to go make some new promises to myself. And it becomes this selfish thing. So it's like, how do you make a promise, keep it to yourself, but still stay aligned with the values, the core, integrity and morality that you grew up with and that you've established for, 20 years in your case as a married man, running a business, doing all these great things you've done. How do you keep all that going? That's what the book's about.
Oh, I can't wait to read it. It's because it's this fine line of like, how do you balance that line of maybe on this side it's self-care or something that could be selfish and something that's selfless. On the other side, it's like, how do you balance that? Because I think when people go, well, I'm going to be selfless and I'm going to serve others, or I'm going to have self-care and I can feel selfish, but yet we need to do both. Right. And so sometimes then there's guilt if I focus too much on self-care. Like, what a balance that has to be all the time. Right. And I think people beat themselves up over that.
Yeah, that's a great way you said it. And, I take them through this process of the importance of journaling, writing in a journal consistently. Also the ICM process, which is identify, clarify, magnify, those things that, are truly your promises and can go from being a goal to a promise. And then, we talk about how where goals are particulars, promises are proclamations. And so what are your proclamations you have made to yourself and to the world that you will not leave this world before you've completed them? And so that's what it's about. Man.
So are you saying that it is possible for people to, what I think you're saying is it is possible then to keep promises to the one being yourself, while at the same time being aligned with those you've made promises to?
Totally. And I think that the people that have made promises to others and keep them, and then they start breaking them to themselves, they have a major misalignment, and then they go bonkers. They just kind of leave everything undone. The people that really focus in and say, I'm going to be all in, I'm going to make promises to myself, and they're in alignment with what I've made elsewhere, then man, you've got significant people doing amazing things that have done this subconsciously. They don't even realize they've kept those promises to themselves. And then others that are really struggling to say, do I stick around, or do I continue the path I'm on, which I'm not happy about? How do I reach my potential that I think I still have? And that's what the book helps lead them down that path.
I see that in business all the time, right? Like there's the people, especially if they're in service-based businesses. Like I can think of, like healthcare providers, chiropractors, massage therapists, especially people in those service-based businesses instead of products. They get into this saying yes to everything, right? So they end up breaking promises to people. I remember a real estate agent I coached years ago. Man, I wish he'd had your book, because he had a son, and he would make these commitments to his son all the time. Hey, I'll be at your track meet. I'll be at your play. I'll be at this. I'll be at that. And then every time a customer came calling, he would break that promise to go serve these people, because, that was the promise he was justifying he needed to keep, until one day that 10th grader wrote him a letter because he knew his dad would read it, an email, and just said, look, I don't blame you. I know you're trying to make money, but I don't trust you. Oh man, what a heart-wrenching letter. And so I think your book is needed. I think especially in the business world too, to say, look, it's okay to keep the promises, make them and keep them to yourself and to those that you value in your life, and still be aligned. I think it's an awesome thing, and I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and it's too bad with your friend, and that happens a lot. That's why this concept is needed. A lot of people are sick of the goals talk, and I love goals. I've set them my whole life, and that's driven so much. But I think there is something to saying that if we're setting goals and we're not reaching them, then we need to make some promises so we can actually get there. And when you are unfortunately saying, I'm going to make a commitment to this person, my son, and then, the gig comes along, so I'm going to go over there. Now you've broken a promise to him. You've broken a promise to yourself.
Yes.
You've broken a promise to the world just to serve that client. It's not enough. And so, yeah, I'm excited for it to come out. Hopefully it helps a lot of people.
And in essence, everyone that's in your value circle, you broke the promise to go to the potential of people who it's just transactional relationship. there. It's interesting, and I'm passionate about this topic because, as I said, my second book, Now Make Good, is all about, the keeping of commitments and so forth. I think that's, it's an important thing. When I remember something years ago with my son and saying something to him and him understanding the word promise, but Dad, you promised. And realizing, it's just a word, but it's so deep. It's so powerful when we build our business plans and we teach people to do that. For years, this is why I'm so aligned with your message, and I can't wait to promote this book after I get my hands on it, I used to say, now at the top, when it's all done, now I want you to write a phrase. I promise to. And now does that business plan change? Does that put different weight to it? Does it add a different level of commitment? And I think you've proven that through that message, that it just means so much.
Well done. And it's a concept that's been around for thousands of years. If you read the old holy books and scripture and so forth, it's just kind of the word. And so that's why we're going with it. And semantics, you can play around with it between goals, commitments, whatever.
Sure.
But I really love the word, the power of it. A lot of people steer clear of it because they go, well, promise has been broken to me so much, I'm not going to make any I can't keep. And I say, I understand, but why don't you be a part of the solution now?
I love it.
Be one of the promise makers who keeps it.
I love it. So thank you for giving that wisdom. Guys, we're listening to Jason Hewlett. So powerful. I can't wait to get that. Now, is there like a waiting list or something we can do to get on to be notified when that book comes out? Do you have that, or?
I'm just going to be happy if my mom buys it, I don't know how to tell your listeners, watchers, how to get it, but I would say jasonhewlett.com. I also, if they wanted to get on my mailing list, it's just a text in thing that we can put in the show notes if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put that in there and go to your website and follow you on social media. I'm sure you'll announce when the book's live. You can let me know. We'll let our listeners, we'll put that out there. All right, let's go back a little bit, right? So I wanted to get kind of that meat, this great message that you have. And of course, we can dive deeper if you'd like, but let's go back to this. So over 2,000 presentations to Fortune 500 companies. I want to ask you a couple things in this because we have listeners here. First of all, I want to know how you got into speaking and how that evolution, because I don't know that, like, I speak a fair amount, and I know, and we talked about some people that we know together. Chad Hymas has spoken at our event the last 3 years and some others, but I don't know that every person, at least most that I've met, didn't grow up going, I'm going to be a public speaker, and they are so good at it, bring so much value to it. How did you get into speaking? Because I think there's a lot of people who have a message in our network. And then I want to kind of go into maybe a few tips, techniques, things that you would give people that say, hey, I want to do some speaking. How did you get involved?
Well, I always, when I was a kid, I wanted to be this. And I saw speakers come to my school. I saw my dad win awards in the insurance and financial planning industry, and I wanted to speak like he did when he received those awards and got standing ovations. So I've been thinking
had that
about
for a while.
Yeah, I've wanted to do something on a stage my whole life. And I didn't know if it would be movies. I didn't know if it would be, a singing career, what it would be, but I knew I wanted something of this type. But I've come to the place where it's exactly what I want, and I'm very grateful for that. So I started right after I returned home from serving a mission for my church in Brazil between the age of 19 and 21. And I came home and I talked to a bunch of these old dudes, and I said, what would you do with your life? Because I had a full ride scholarship offer and all these things. And they said, man, I would go after the dream, if I could turn back time, I'd go. And so I was like, well, what's my dream? I guess I'll go start making people laugh and singing and do music. So I put together a show of comedy and music and speaking and messaging. It was like this. It was almost like Zig Ziglar meets Billy Joel meets Jim Carrey meets Dr. Martin Luther King. Like, wow. I was like this messenger that was inspiring people through clean comedy and music and these stories. And next thing I know, I get offered to come and perform in Las Vegas as one of the Legends in Concert. The Legends in Concert shows for the best impersonators in the world, the people that sing and look like Elvis and others. And so they hired me as Ricky Martin, the Bon Bon Shaker, and as Elton John,
wow,
the great legend. And so I figured out how to play Elton John songs on the piano. I looked exactly like these guys when I did the makeup. I was a legend in concert for about a year with this company touring around the U.S.
wow.
And I learned real quickly, Chaz, that everybody has signature moves. Everybody has something that, you know, we can imitate them for, and then at the same time, we all have to discover what ours are, or we're imitating others our whole life, you know?
So good.
And which isn't a bad thing. I mean, there are people that have made great livings and a great difference by imitating others, and that's cool. But for me, I was kind of getting tired of being known as the Ricky Martin guy, you know? And even though it was a compliment to look like him apparently at the time.
Right.
And so I found my voice, man. I started to work on voices of others, and you know, from everything from Louis Armstrong, I see trees that green, red roses, you know,
wow,
to the Chipmunks.
So good.
You know, I could do all these little funny things, and I mean, Pee Wee Herman. You know, so I would just do weird stuff, and eventually found my own voice through this identify, clarify, magnify process that I talk about in the promise and the signature move discovery. But when we discover that which makes us unique, we now all of a sudden have a way to be effective.
Wow.
And that was where my whole life changed, was realizing I'm not just capable of doing voices of others, but I can actually use the principles for learning how to do it to teach leaders how to find theirs, because most leaders can't tell you what theirs is. And so I began a career as a performer meets great keynote speaker because it was entertaining and they weren't expecting that. And then I've just been all around the world because of it.
That's
cool.
Amazing. What a cool story. And so when you make that transition and you kind of, I'm sure there had to be, I would imagine at some level, I don't know if it's fear or anxiety, like, you know what it's like to be on stage. Obviously you've done that, but then to go do it in this kind of, like you said, on your own voice and kind of put your own thing out there, and then to get on stages and how to get events and all that, had to be some transitional fear or some challenges in that. Tell us about any of those that you had.
Of course. The stage is not scary. The scary part is going into business to do this and be all in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the scary part. And so saying to myself, there is no plan B, you know, I'm cutting the, I'm sinking the ships or whatever, you know, I'm going for it. So the whole concept of connect, share, and prosper, you know, that you've got going, connection is where it all came from for me. I realized that early on, if I connected with people, told them what I was attempting to create with my career, and then I proved to them that I was good on stage and delivering what I was saying I would do. I mean, it was really just me keeping the promise and not over promising, but over delivering. And that made all the difference. So once I started to connect with the right people, they would then connect me with the people they wanted to see me. And so that was huge for my career. It's been a referral, word of mouth business for my entire career.
So as people see you, like, by the way, we have a lot of people that watch this show who put on events, who hire speakers. I mean, often people who've been on this show say, hey, someone found me on your show. And so what you're saying is you go speak. And for those listening who have this dream and they have a song in their heart they want to sing from stage, if you will, that you said, look, put it together, get on a stage. Did you do, this is a question I have for you. Did you do a lot of like free gigs to start, like, hey, you know, or low end, like, hey, just get me in front of some people to get my experience of this message and get me out in front of some people? Or were you kind of like, I know some who said, no, I was this fee right from the beginning and kind of built my authority in it. Which route did you take? I'm curious.
You know, I have an interesting philosophy about that. And I do believe that if I get on a stage, I will get work because people see that it's of value. However, I've chosen for my entire career that any paid gig that I get, I will be donating another gig for free somewhere else. And so it's a 1-for-1 for me.
Wow,
Some people do not like that model. I personally live by it and have for now 18 years. It served me very well. But yeah, man, I'm doing as many free things as I can to start. I'm speaking at church groups, at Cub Scout events, at, the county fair, you name it.
So tell me how that works a little bit. I'm curious about it. I love this idea.
Think about your circle of friends, let's say. If your listeners are sitting there going, who would I ask? I would say you need to, first of all, reach out to a couple of friends and just say, hey, can I come and talk to your sales team about this thing that I'm putting together? I'll do it for free. Can I come and speak at the scouting event that's, happening with the scouts every Wednesday when they meet? Can I come to the basketball team and speak to them before they go on to play tomorrow? Can I come? You just start telling everyone everywhere what your goal is. And then the next thing you know, everyone starts connecting the dots for you. And if you're good, they'll become like your agent for you. They'll start promoting you. So then you're not just bragging, it's actual proof because they say
so good.
So that's how it's worked for me. And obviously there are cycles with the business where you go, man, I have no work. I guess I got to go out and start connecting again. I've been writing a book for the last few months. I haven't been on that many stages lately. So yeah, I'm kind of in that space where I go, well, I need to go talk to some people.
Yeah. So, by the way, thank you for this kind of behind the scenes. I appreciate your transparency of that, because I think sometimes we've had some speakers who get on here and tell us, "Oh yeah, I speak 5 days a week, every day," and I'm like, "I've seen your calendar. It doesn't like that." So, but at the same time, I get an interesting perspective, and that's why I love to hear from other speakers, because not only do I get the opportunity to speak, but we host events and we have other speakers come in. So I can see it kind of from both sides to that, and I agree and align very much with what you're saying. I think I sometimes see people who are in a matter of principle. They're like, I will only go if A, B, and C. And I get there's some criteria you need to have and some disciplines in your life. I totally get that. But they're kind of gotten to a place where I think they feel like they've arrived. Like, yeah, I don't speak for, like, I don't do that. And I think you miss opportunities. I've spoke at my kids' school, and those aren't paid speaking opportunities, but they are. It's just not with money. And I think people miss those if they don't take those opportunities. Would you agree?
That's beautifully said, Chaz. And I just firmed up an event yesterday with my cousin who runs a school thing, and they have next to no money, but they can't have me for free. So she's like, please just let me give you what we have. And it is so far below my fee. And guess what? If a corporation were to, let's say, find out that I did a discount for a school group, all I would say to that corporation is, hey, look, you paid me my full fee so that I have the time and the resources to go give back to the community. And I'm so grateful that you would help me with that.
That's so good.
And so that's why I say, as much as I can, if I can get my fee, I am thrilled. But if I have like the military calls, I went to Afghanistan for almost a month and spoke and performed for a month for free. It was the honor of my life. Now, Can I do that if I only speak for free? Probably
I get
not.
I get it.
I needed all these companies to pay me for years to build up enough, resource so my family could survive while I'm speaking for free to the military. Now, would you have a problem with that if you were an event planner saying, we don't like this guy because he speaks for free to the military, but won't to American Express?
Exactly.
It doesn't work.
Right. It's so good too, because I think there's so much value in it. And so I think sometimes people want to start at a place where they're like, all right, how much am I worth? I'm like, go speak first, go get in front of some people, go make it happen. And then, do something that's worth speaking about. And then others will definitely pay you if you're good and you deliver value. That's definitely what happens. So I love that.
Yep. And I've taught that for years. I have had people come to me asking for mentoring and so forth. And I eventually had to put together let me answer all your questions up front online course. So I put that together a couple of years back, and it's like transformed the lives of people like your listeners that are sitting there going, I wonder if I could make a career of this. And I say, sure you can. You just have to be willing to do a couple of interesting things. And so if we want, we can share that with your listeners.
Yeah. Tell me, how do they find that? Because I know, like I said, we just did a survey, by the way, to all of our several thousands of our members. And I think it was number 3 of the 8 choices, something like that, was how to become a paid speaker of the things they
Wow.
wanted to learn. So yeah, how do they find this? Is this on your website?
It's a different website. It's
Okay.
jhetraining.com. And
JHE training.
Yeah, like Jason Hewlett Entertainment Training.com.
Got it.
jhetraining.com. It's the course called How to Make a Career from the Stage. And it's very inexpensive. It's like $197 or something.
Love it.
And, I mean, I've had people take it that had not made a career yet that are now doing six figures just because they applied it. And then they found their gifts and they went off on their own and they did it. So I'm just telling you, it works if you're into it. So hopefully that'll help.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Well, again, we didn't know that up front. We were going to talk about that, but I think for the value of the listeners, which you said at the beginning as you wanted to provide, I think that's a really great thing. We're listening to Jason Hewlett here on Connect, Share, Prosper, who's doing some amazing things. And as we wrap up to this today, and I feel like we could go for a long time. In fact, I think, when we're done here, you and I will stay connected on some things and continue to get our listeners out your book when it comes out. But, you talked about connection from stage, and that's probably something that you have really learned to master. I think it's a skill. I think people learn how to connect. I think as you look around young kids today, at times it's a challenge for them to figure out how to connect with people. And I'm constantly teaching my kids as much as I can. Like, if you can learn how to, we go out to eat. I'm like, don't tell me what you want to eat. Tell her or him what you want to eat, and, look them in the eye and speak clearly, and just simple things of learning how to connect. I believe it's a skill. If you were to tell our listeners who are business owners who go out to our networking events and things like that, is there one tip that you would give somebody that says that, look, here's something that served me well in connecting with others and building my network of friends and connections? What would that one tip be?
That's a great question. And I would dare to say that they need to make sure to offer value wherever they go with that which makes them who they are. And that is their promise to share their signature moves. And so what are their signature moves? It might be that they're able to compliment people real easily. Maybe they're the grateful person. Maybe there's somebody who is just of service at all times. But in any way that you can to connect. I know for me, starting out as a kid, I found out I could do funny things with my face, And so for your listeners, they won't see this, but I'm doing weird things that actually creates connection because I'm willing to share the weirdness that is me in order to break down the walls of the people that are unsure of how vulnerable they can be with me, how much they can trust me. And it's my promise, Chaz, to share that with every person I come in contact with when it makes sense, but it connects us in a very valuable way.
So good. Oh, so appreciate that. That's excellent. And again, so people can find you, jasonhewlett.com, connect with you on your website, social media. Last question. Often in business, we don't get the opportunity, I think, as leaders often, and people who have influence, we try to balance this confidence and humility at the same time. Right? You got to be confident as a business owner, but yet you got to be careful that doesn't turn into other things. But I'm going to give you a chance to have a brag moment in this. So can you think of a time in business where, in your business, where you accomplished something you set out to do that you were just like, man, I did that. That's something I kept that promise to myself, something you did that you were just amazed, you kind of amazed yourself.
Well, we could go a lot of directions because my career is a miracle for real. I mean, I look at it and go, I can't believe that happened. I guess maybe one of the bigger ones for me was receiving the Hall of Fame achievement or award. That recognition from my peers was so significant for me. Obviously, it didn't come just because of me. It was other people that recognized it, and so then they nominated me. But I worked really, really, really hard, Chaz, for a long, long time with that as something, as a pinnacle for me to reach. And I said, that is something I want so bad. What do I have to do? And it was, performing and recording myself, watching it, getting better. It was asking for coaching and help. It was doing all the things that I had to do to be in alignment between social media, marketing, integrity, on stage and off stage to qualify for that type of recognition. Because they don't just put you in there because you're good on stage. You have to be great off stage. And so all of that had to align, and I'm very, very proud of that.
That's awesome. So you're nominated by your peers, right? That's how that happens. That alone says a lot when your peers, who are, many of these people are just legends themselves, that are nominating you. That's incredible.
They're legends, and then it goes through a huge vetting process. And now that I'm a part of the, of this Hall of Fame, now I'm going into that process and seeing the nominees, and it's interesting what you have to put them through, because they only award it to 5 people in the world per year.
Wow.
And even last year we only gave 3. And so it's a great honor. And our buddy Chad Hymas is in there, and the people that you think of that you go, they're pretty awesome on stage, but pretty much more awesome off stage. Those are the people that are there.
I think that's the key. And so just congratulations to you, number one, getting the award and meeting that honor. But at the same time, I think it's because you're a reflection of what you do on stage, off stage, and I can't say that that's 100% of all speakers, because it's not. And so kudos to you for that achievement and continuing to be that great person. Thank you for a great episode. I feel like we could go a long, long time, but I just appreciate the value you brought to our listeners. And guys, just remember, every Monday, noon Central, I bring you great entrepreneurs of all different industries, services, products, etc., who share their success stories. And we cover some topics today that we've yet to cover in 86 episodes of Connect, Share, Prosper. So thank you so much, Jason, for being on the show. And guys, remember, subscribe to the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, Instagram, to be notified as soon as we go live and as soon as we post a new episode, so you can get, be aware of it as soon as it comes live. And again, until next time, we'll see you. Connect, Share, and Prosper. Take care.